in the house with us this morning, Dave, is Yakima County Prosecutor Mr. Joseph Brusic. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Dave and Lance.
Good morning, Joe.
Once again, appreciate it's an honor and privilege to be on your show.
You got it. You got it. Busy man and a number of things. And we want to let everybody know that regardless of what happened with the situation in Wapato yesterday, we have Joe on now scheduled, and this was scheduled months ago. So I guess if you could say perfect timing. But nice to have you on here, Joe. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, and
Appreciate
I appreciate very much the chance to come, approximately once a month just to discuss our fantastic office.
You got
the
it.
Yakima County Prosecutor's Office is a great place to work. It's got approximately 90 people that really, really work hard for all the people of Yakima County, and it's an honor to be able to talk about such a great office.
Right on.
Well, while we talk about this perfect timing, we may be a bit premature in our perfect timing on this, right, Joe?
Right.
Well,
We're talking about the Orozco arrest.
Yeah, and obviously when he was arrested yesterday, I recognized the fact that the media was going to be calling and coming on your show this morning. But we have to remember a few very basic concepts here.
Right.
Number one, anybody that is arrested is not charged at that point with a crime. The police and all law enforcement agencies have the authority to arrest, and we as prosecutors rarely, if ever, tell them to arrest anyone. Generally, that is their bailiwick. But on the flip side of that, police officers do not charge individuals with crime. Prosecuting attorneys do. And so we oftentimes will make a decision not to charge someone with a crime or crimes or change the charges that they send up as allegations.
What we see all the time, Joe, is, hey, we've got him in jail, charge him within 72 hours or whatever the window is that we see on TV and the movies, or cut him loose, right? So police can arrest. You look at the facts, the information, decide if you're going to charge. Is there a window, generally speaking?
Yes, there is. We have a 72-hour window period.
Okay.
This particular suspect, because once again, not charged with a crime, he's
Right.
not a defendant. He's a suspect at this point. We'll review all the case file that we'll be getting over the next 24 hours from the Yakima County Sheriff's Department and evaluating that. We have a window of approximately 72 hours. Oftentimes we'll get that charging decision made within about 48. And then arraignment will be scheduled approximately 11 days or so down the road.
Gotcha. What if there's a flight risk thing like this? Can you hold someone who's a flight risk longer or not?
Yes, there's a number of reasons why individuals are kept in custody pending arraignment and when they make their preliminary appearance. We have, let's say Monday of this week, we had approximately 32 new felony allegations of individuals that were arrested just over the weekend. 32 new felony preliminary appearances on Monday. It's an incredible number. And those individuals are either held or not held by the court. The judge makes a final decision. Both defense counsel, who was there at preliminary appearance, as well as the prosecutor, we make recommendations to the court based upon all the information that we have at our fingertips through the law enforcement investigation and other things that we acquire through the public safety assessment tool. If you remember, over the last few years, we've had the pretrial program that we have instituted starting back in February of 2016. And so that tool will be created for all the individuals that will be brought to court today, both district and superior court. And then the judge will have that information. And those things that the judge looks at will then have that judge make a decision as to whether anyone arrested last night is going to be held until their arraignment or thereafter.
Gotcha. So if we were to say, okay, so what's the deal on Orozco? Your response would be, slow down, Sparky. We haven't gone over all of the information and all that kind of stuff, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
And would you call him Sparky?
No, he'd be calling us Sparky.
Okay.
See, he'd be telling me to slow down, Sparky. Or you, more likely.
Well, a very important concept that is oftentimes forgotten, and I will stand before God himself and argue that this applies to everyone, is the presumption of innocence.
Right.
No one can rush to judgment. The only way an individual is guilty of a crime that we charge them with is if they plead guilty or are found guilty by a trier of fact. And until that point, they are presumed innocent. So literally, during the course of trial in front of a jury, the defendant who has been charged with a crime is presumed innocent at that point.
Well, we got that.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so I want everybody to know.
Go ahead.
Well, the reason that the Yakima County Sheriff's Department, to my knowledge, decided to arrest him yesterday was because, based upon their investigation, they believe that they had a flight risk. That is a choice that they made, and that's why he's in custody. And then that will now be evaluated through the court system as to what that means. And so he may or may not be released. Bail may or may not be set. But we move forward in terms of getting the reports and getting information to make now a charging decision, which we as prosecutors are charged to do.
Joe, it says in the Yakima Herald Republic and the Associated Press are reporting this morning that says that Yakima County Prosecutor Joseph Brusic says he learned recently that Orozco was considered a flight risk, so deputies took him into custody.
Well, the first that I had heard of anything was the end of last week, but it really started. I was out of town on some interviews in Seattle for the Washington Association of Prosecuting Attorneys Monday, and so I started hearing about some of the intelligence that they had gathered as well as some of the information yesterday morning, and as it appeared over the course of that morning into early afternoon, they made a choice to arrest him. The ongoing investigation. Do you anticipate any other arrests or any other charges? Not to my knowledge, not at this time. I'm not at liberty to say even if I was under these circumstances.
Okay.
So.
But the investigation is ongoing.
Yes.
And
let me make sure, Lance. Investigations are always ongoing. I mean, evidence is very dynamic. It's rarely static in any criminal charge, regardless of what it is. And so we are under, as prosecutors and as law enforcement, we're always under a duty to acquire more information, whether it be inculpatory or exculpatory. If it's exculpatory, we're duty-bound to make sure. And that means information that shows that someone that we've charged is not guilty of a particular charge. We have to acquire that, have a duty to find it out, and then provide it to defense counsel. And that sometimes leads to decisions that we make on charges.
KIT News Time is 8:25. We're talking to Yakima County Prosecutor Joseph Brusic. I guess, if you can't answer the question, say you can't answer it, because I understand that you're under an ongoing investigation.
Just call him Sparky when you
just
do.
call me Sparky. What is official misconduct? When he's arrested on an official misconduct, what is that charge? What does that mean?
Well, it's right now.
Is it a misdemeanor or is it a felony?
Right now, it's an allegation that the Yakima County Sheriff's Department feels that they had probable cause to arrest him on. He's not charged with anything, so I don't want to characterize a particular crime.
Sure, I got you.
Official misconduct is a gross misdemeanor under Title 9A of the Washington Revised Code. And so under those circumstances, but once again, there are other things that we can always look at to make a charging decision. We're not duty-bound to solely by what law enforcement has provided to us through their reports. We can look outside that.
You could bring other charges.
Absolutely, you can always bring. Once again, our one province under the law, our superpower, as I tell kids when I talk to them, our superpower is to charge individuals with a crime, because it's a seriously important task. No one else has that authority. And the reality is, when you charge someone with a crime, when we as prosecuting attorneys charge someone with a crime, we realize and understand very seriously that we are immersing people into the criminal justice system. And oftentimes it's life-changing. So it must be respected at all times.
Right on. And that's so important when we say, as I've been telling everyone all morning, that Juan Orozco was arrested on a charge of official misconduct. That was what he was arrested on, and is presumed.
Once again, they say charge. It's not a charge.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. A charging document is by information, and we file that, and it is only at this point an allegation.
So
an allegation of official misconduct rather than a charge of official misconduct would be more correct.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll do that.
We need to fix our language, because sometimes.
Yeah.
In situations like this, people will use the same word that has, general in people's minds. It means sort of the same thing. But for you people who live by the letter of the law, there's a very specific difference in the meaning of that. And we should have words that say that.
Well, we've all seen TV shows where the victim says, "I want to press charges." That's incorrect. victims are witnesses and victims of crime, they don't charge people. And
Right.
so oftentimes, say, domestic violence victims don't want us to prosecute. We still do to protect the community as well as the victim or victim's family. So it's a nuance in our language,
Right.
but it's absolutely crystal clear to us. And we take that role very, very seriously.
And we're glad you do. And we're glad that you get to come on our show and, clarify those kinds of things, because there is a lot of generalized Hollywood-based information on this important system in our county and our legal lives, and we need to have those clarifications from time to time. So it's excellent that you can come on and do that.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Any other questions?
I'm wondering about high-profile individuals in jails and the whole Epstein thing, but I guess maybe that's for another time.
If you want, I can stay longer.
Well, that'd be great. Quite frankly, we're closing in on news time, and we'd love to have your assessment on what has taken place on the national scene,
Good.
To the extent that you can. So we look forward to chatting with you about that. In the meantime,
I take it that there's a quick, we got about a minute left. There's a message to the folks in Wapato that you always bring, I'm just wondering, do you think the actions that the city is taking now will correct things in the future? I mean, are you happy that they're taking these actions now?
I don't live in Wapato, but I support Wapato. I always have. I support the people. They've been under tremendous stress, and it's almost palpable from my position.
I can imagine.
I've received a lot of emails, a lot of calls, a lot of frustration. I received one at 12:20 this morning from an individual down in Wapato. It's very serious, and we are taking it very seriously, just like the Attorney General's office did. This is different today than it was before with the Attorney General back in May and June. They filed a civil claim. We're filing or potentially filing and looking at criminal charges.